Hello friends, this is Dr. Banerjee from History series. Today the topic is capitalism. Capitalism is always associated with money, power and wealth. Capitalism is a system in which private or corporate wealth, that is capital, is used in the production and distribution of goods, resulting in the dominance of private owners of capital and production for profit. Before we proceed with the chapter, we should know some terms and abbreviations. Feudalism. Feudalism is a political and economic system where a landowner granted land to a vassal in exchange for homage and military service. Agrarian. It is related to landed property. Protectionism. The protection of domestic producers by impeding or limiting, as by tariffs, the importation of foreign goods and services. Laissez-faire, an economic doctrine of non-interference that opposes government involvement in commerce. So in simple words, capitalism is an economic system in which the government plays a secondary role. People and companies make most of the decisions and own most of the property. The means of production are largely or entirely privately owned by individuals or companies and operated for profit. Adam Smith is the name closely associated with capitalism. We can say Adam Smith invented capitalism. The ideology of classical capitalism was expressed in an inquiry into the nature and causes of the Wealth of Nations, 1776, by the Scottish economist and philosopher Adam Smith, which recommended leaving economic decisions to the free play of self-regulating market forces. It was Adam Smith who noticed that mercantilism was not a force of development and change, but a regressive system that was creating trade imbalances between nations and keeping them from advancing. His ideas for a free market opened the world to capitalism. There is a close relation between the Industrial Revolution and capitalism. By the early 1770s, the economic and social conditions were in place for the Industrial Revolution to explode on to the world's economies. Powered by a number of new inventions, the primitive factory system was transformed as machine power drove productivity to unprecedented levels. With the factories transformed by the new machinery, the cottage industries could not possibly compete and soon collapsed. Between the 1770s and the 1830s, there was a boom in factory production, with all manner of buildings being converted into factories and the majority of waged labor taking place within factory buildings. The water wheel, the blast furnace, pumping machines for mines, improved transmission of power, through cogwheels and flywheels were just a few of the innovations which paved the way for the Industrial Revolution. Cotton production only appeared in Britain in the late 17th century and was free of any guild restrictions. Further, it had to compete with the well-established woolen industry. Both these factors encouraged higher productivity, resulting in the invention of the spinning jenny in the 1730s, followed by the mule, followed by the mechanical loom. However, it was not until the invention of the steam engine that the Industrial Revolution truly took off. Steam power replaced human power, first in the cotton and metal industries, then throughout the rest of industry. This explosion in productive power transformed Britain's economy. As productivity increased, so the prices of manufactured goods plummeted, stimulating demand for British goods across the world. As a result, the value of British exports rose from £15 million in 1760 to 59 million in 1805. This new wealth, however, was not experienced by the workers whose labor had made it possible. Abroad, these were the black slaves upon whose backs the cotton industry in Lancashire grew and prospered. In Britain, it was concentrated amongst the few capitalists who owned the means of production and bought, with capitalist dictated wages, the labor of the workers. It is important to note that the ownership of the means of production at this stage in the development of industrial capitalism meant not only the ownership of factories, machinery, and the power to invest or withhold capital, but also the means of the production of knowledge. Capitalists who owned newspapers, for example, could exert great political influence to protect their own interests. Ownership of a newspaper meant not only the direct control of print workers, distributors and sellers, but control over the transmission of information. This could, for instance, extend to direct or indirect political influence through specific politicians or parties. It might also extend and protect capitalist interests by the spread of ideology and less certainly blatant propaganda. So here we can discuss few key points. Present-day capitalism arose from the systematic breakdown of one social and economic system, that is feudalism, based on obligation, and the rise of another social and economic system, that is capitalism, based on wage labor. Until the end of 18th century, the work experience of the laboring population in England was predominantly agrarian based, but by the mid-19th century was predominantly urban. Colonialism, involving the establishment of national trading monopolies, began with merchants and state chasing the wealth created by foreign trade and led to several wars over exploited foreign territory over 4 centuries. Capitalism arose from the systematic breakdown of feudalism as a social and economic system and the imposition of a wage labor system in its place. Under feudalism, a landlord takes half or third of a peasant's grain, whatever the quantity is and however much work the peasant put into it. But capitalist accumulation runs on a different formula. For capitalists, the product itself is not the point. The wealth they accumulate is the labor power extracted from workers in the production process. Labor power is wealth crystallized in commodities in the form of surplus value, a form of profit. So here are 5 main characteristics of capitalism. First, economic freedom. Second, voluntary or willing exchange. Third, private property rights. Fourth, the profit motive. And last but not the least, competition. The advantages of capitalism include, first, consumer choice. Individuals choose what to consume, and this choice leads to more competition and better products and services. Second advantage of capitalism is efficiency of economics. Goods and services produced based on demand create incentives to cut costs and avoid waste. However, like everything else, capitalism has its disadvantages, such as negative externalities like pollution, diminishing non-renewable resources, a disproportionate distribution of wealth or income, high unemployment rates, and economic instability due to the cyclical nature of the capitalistic system. So the conclusive part, the growth of industrial capitalism and the development of the factory system in the 19th century also created a vast new class of industrial workers whose generally miserable conditions inspired the revolutionary philosophy of Karl Marx, that is Marxism. World War I marked a turning point in the development of capitalism. After the war, international markets shrank, the gold standard was abandoned in favor of managed national currencies, banking hegemony passed from Europe to the United States, and trade barriers multiplied. The Great Depression of the 1930s brought the policy of laissez-faire, that is non-interference by the state in economic matters, to an end in most countries, and for a time created sympathy for socialism among many intellectuals, writers, artists, and especially in Western Europe, workers and middle-class professionals. That's it for now. Till my next topic. Thanks for watching. Please like it and subscribe my channel. Thank you.